We're going to start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We had a closed session, and there are a couple of matters that we need to put into the record, so I'm going to do that right now. Member Jane Weil moved and Member Thane Whipple seconded the motion to expel student number 8003693 from Miners Oaks Elementary through the end of the 2017-18 school year for violation of Education Code 48915, parens G. The board unanimously approved the expulsion. The expulsion was immediately suspended to allow the student to enroll and attend Topa Topa Elementary. The student must also comply with the conditions as set forth in a student behavior and attendance contract prior to applying for readmission in the 2018-2019 school year. Member Weil moved and Member Whipple seconded the motion to expel student number 8004110 from the schools of Ojai Unified School District through the end of the 2017-18 school year for violation of Education Code 48915, parens C, parens 2. The board unanimously approved the expulsion. The expulsion was immediately suspended to allow the student to enroll and attend the Learning Center through Ojai Unified. The student must also comply with the conditions as set forth in the student behavior and attendance contract prior to applying for readmission in the 2018-2019 school year to the Ojai Unified School District schools. And with that, we're going to start with the approval of the agenda.
I'll move to approve.
All those in, second?
Oh.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any emergency additions, modifications?
There are none.
Approval of the minutes.
I'll move to approve.
Second?
Do we have to say each meeting, the 17th and
The 19th of April as well, sorry, the 17th of April, the special meeting on the 19th of April, and the special meeting on May 1st, all 2018.
So I'll move to approve all three. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I'm abstaining.
And Thane is abstaining from the ones in
The
which,
17th and 19th.
right, in which she was not in attendance.
Right.
Now are we going to cut to the celebration?
No,
We're going to have our
We
student
have
report, yeah.
AP government test in the morning, so that's
Okay.
let's say you provide.
We talked about zigging a little bit, but we're not going to zig. We're going to zag.
Okay.
So,
Okay, so at
let's do that.
Matilaha, state testing went well with no major glitches. Matilaha is getting ready for our sixth graders to do their annual visit to our campus. During the visit, sixth graders will have the opportunity to experience what a day at Matilaha looks like by visiting classrooms and having a mini recess. This is scheduled to take place on May 15th. We are also preparing for our annual spring celebration where we also incorporate a sixth grade parent orientation. This will be on May 17th. At Topa Topa School, we had a great turnout for our school beautification day. A lot of weeds were removed and we discovered a long lost sandbox in a kindergarten yard. Our PTA even provided our team with water and pizza. A lot was accomplished. Students, families, and our PTA spoiled our staff last week for staff appreciation with lunch, morning goodies, and many flowers. It was a fun week. At Summit, the primary class at Summit has concluded their current EEI science unit about plant and animal life cycles, but the learning continues as they watch silkworms make cocoons and nurture the seeds that were planted from trees and plants that are located on campus. They will also be using songs and stories to help learn to recognize, name, and safely express common emotions. Finally, the class is learning to recognize common American symbols through a simple bingo game. The upper grade class has been practicing the Shakespeare play, 12th Night, scheduled for spring showcase on June 1st. Students are also preparing for the Moo-Poo track meet with Santa Clara School. Students are also studying Santa Cruz Island for the class trip to Channel Islands National Park through a grant from the Metro Foundation and the Multicultural Education for Resources Issues threatening oceans. Today at Nordhoff, a group of students visited 8th grade classes at Matilaha to promote a senior sibling program. Students learned about the program, then signed up on the quad at lunch, and prom is right around the corner, May 19th from 7 p.m. to 10:30 at Satahoy Country Club. The theme is Enchanted Forest. Looking ahead, leadership is planning the senior rally and starting to think about next year's beginning of the year activities like Welcome Back Wednesday, staff teams, staff buddies, etc. Miners Oaks, the fifth graders in room 5 walked to the meadows last Tuesday and saw a baby owl using the great binoculars that OEF graciously funded. It was so exciting to see them. The 5th graders also put on the famous 5th grade wax museum this morning. One of our famous speakers even showed her horse. The same students recently completed a poetry unit which culminated in beautiful poetry folders that will be displayed at Spring Fling. Miners Oak students invited people who are special to them to join them for lunch today. It was great. There were mom, dads, grandma, grandpas, aunts, uncles, brothers, sisters, friends, and neighbors. Everyone was there to enjoy on the fun. The Nutrition Services Department provided a delicious taco bar for people to enjoy, and it was a perfect day to celebrate the very important people in our students' lives. Miners Oaks Spring Fling. The 2018 Spring Fling at Miners Oaks will take place on Thursday, May 31st from 5 to 7:30 p.m. Classrooms will be open. The PTA will have delicious food available. There will be a fantastic silent auction to look through, and there will be a number of very cute student performances to enjoy. Please come and visit Miners Oak School on Thursday, May 31st.
Thank you very much. I want to say to you, I don't know if many of you probably did see the dance performance over the weekend, but it was absolutely amazing.
Thank you so much.
And there's something this weekend too, right? Are you
Yes,
part of that?
there's the Sizzling 60s where people from Nordhoff and alumni and people just in the Ojai community will be going there and singing. It's a benefit, and there will be Nordhoff dancers there as well. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Good luck in AP.
Thank you.
So now we have a kind of an amazing thing that happened in this little tiny town of ours. We have a statewide award that was given to this gentleman sitting in front of us as the Classified School Employee of the Year. And we're here eating this cake, those of us who have, and we did it up front. And next time there will be beer up front as well, but we couldn't get that done early enough. But Rick Carrion, congratulations from all of us. We have a beautiful plaque, but first I know Barbie wants to say a few things, and then perhaps we'll hear from Andy as well.
I do. You know, usually we say really nice things when people are getting ready to retire, so we're really, really pleased that Rick is not retiring, that he's just getting this wonderful award, because I'm sorry, you just can't retire at any point. But I wanted to give you a little bit of numbers here, just really briefly. There are 58 counties in California, 330 unified school districts, 87 high school districts, 560 elementary districts, for a total of 977. So about 1,000 districts in California. And we got one.
We've wanted it for so long!
We have. I guess this is the first time that the state felt that one of our employees deserved it. But we took nominations to the county, and Rick received 5 nominations from his colleagues, supervisors, different people here within Ojai Unified, and we could only send 3 to the state. So, you know, we picked the best 3, and they only let you send them if they're typed. You know, they're very particular, so we met all the guidelines, and he obviously met all the parameters for being the Classified School Employee of the Year in maintenance, operations, and facilities. What it says for the program is that it has the opportunity to highlight the contributions of classified school employees who support more than 6 million public school students from preschool to grade 12. Key roles, and Rick exemplifies everything in that classified staff. So we have to, you can't provide great instruction and have a great result unless you have a clean, safe, secure facility. So Rick is a person who steps up and does this all the time, every day. He does things without being asked. He just knows they need to be done and he does them. He will be traveling to Sacramento, I believe it's May 24th, to receive his award. And I just wanted to let you know some of the words that were used to describe. He takes ownership. He is a positive example. Those kids know him, trust him, and follow his lead and listen. He's trusted. If you ask him to take care of something, or even if you don't ask him, he'll take care of it. He's organized. He's hardworking. We know all these things. He's our go-to guy. He's happy. He's happy to be here. He's happy to serve. He's happy to do the job he's doing. And he's very humble. You're proactive. You're flexible. Boy, he has had to shift work around, shift employees around, entire community of Ojai to the Red Cross. I mean, he just, we're all sitting in our little safe places wherever we happen to be, and Rick is at work caring for everyone else who doesn't have a place to be. So that's the kind of guy he is. So he's our colleague, he's our friend. He makes us all proud and makes us all just really reinforce just what the epitome of being a classified employee is. So we are all so very proud of you, Rick. So. For 21 years of dedicated service at Nordoff High School. His unwavering and selfish speech.
Here, we'll sit down and you can go. We have a little microphone. I want you to pick it up.
He's getting up for How are you?
Carrie works at the Ohio Art Center. She's been there for 35 years, and she's an amazing person over there at the Art Center. And then my two friends, which are retiring this year, Greg and Martha Lapine. Greg has 25 more days. He tells me that. Tomorrow's 24. So
Thank you.
Bye, you guys.
We want pictures from Sacramento, too. We want to see those in the paper.
Yes.
That's the homework.
The publisher of our newspaper is here. He'll definitely do a huge article on it. The owner, whatever. Well, we'll get to the bottom of that. All right.
Nice segue.
That's true. That's true. And with that, we now move to agenda item 6.2, which is the approval of the Citizens Oversight Committee 2018 annual report with a few comments from Mr. Robert Daddy.
Good evening. Dennis Court and our assistant were unavailable, so I decided I would pitch in. What I want to do is we need to go forward. We need to move forward fast. I don't want to go back to the past. I've been here for 20 plus years. We don't need to go to the past. We need to go forward. We're blessed. We escaped a huge fire. We've got great people. We've got great staff. We've got a wonderful community, and we need to go forward, improve our schools, and give our kids the education opportunities they deserve. With that, the Oversight Committee has taken a look and has had a series of meetings. January 30th of 18, February 27th, 18, March 20th of 18, April 24th of 18. We are current. The Measure J expenditures during the year of 2016-2017 were $785,000. Not a lot. The Measure J start in 2015 until March 31st of 2018. Of the $35 million bond were $2,275,995, and that's all in your report. The start we got with 32 outstanding incomplete items have cost us significant time, but we're down to 8 incomplete items and moving fast and moving even much faster. When we go to page 3 of 9 in the bottom paragraph, I want to read that so we all understand it. The issue is in California, across the state, to many school districts are using the same people that we need, the same tradespeople, the same drafts get a ticket to start building. If we're looking at a 1% a month, we're looking at 12% annually, and we could save $3.6 million, more than 10% of our bond, by accelerating. The problem is that it's not really a problem. The facts is that we spent to date only $2.275 million. And to ask the district to accelerate that 6-7 times is going to be a task. And so I'd ask you to take a look at this is a major issue. We can hire 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 people on staff for the $3.5 million we're going to lose in inflation over 2 years. That money's already spent. We don't have that. We don't own that. That money is gone. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to see, along this the board's recommendation, that we accelerate that. Strongly urge that one person cannot go from a few $1 million to $10 or $15 million. At least 2 are going to be necessary, and I would urge that if we're going to lose the money anyhow, I would rather spend 3 or 4 and spend $400,000 or $500,000 and keep $2.7 million instead of letting an entire $3.5 million slip away. That's what I would urge you to do as quick as possible, and to do it in phases. So you have some people that are in the planning phase, that are in the working phase, that are in the clearing through the DSA phase. And so you can just kind of keep leapfrogging project over project. When somebody has a ticket from the DSA, then you get into the people that are starting to pull everything together. Then you have somebody that's building, and the person that got through the DSA is now on the house, called prevailing wage. We will never get to the scale or scope where labor becomes abundant, where we can get a... The other thing is this. We have a very small window. We've got a very small school window. If you went to school when they were destroying your, gee, the gym's not here today, the auditorium's not there today, we're not going to have a cafeteria for 6 months, we got to walk over the ditches, the parking lot's torn up. A number of us went through that for a number of years. We should probably avoid that as much as we can, and the only way we're going to do that is to really factors. We looked at the averages, we looked and saw who was there to do that, and we came away satisfied that they've done a good job, you've done a good job, the bond people and our superintendent have done an excellent job. There's one last thing I'm going to read you, and then I'm going to stop. The committee feels the pace of construction is the greatest risk to the effective use of bond proceeds and needs immediate attention. We believe the district is spending the funds as required. Unfortunately, in today's environment, just not fast enough.
We had lots of things that we built over many years in the district. They were probably built well, they've served us well.
The prevailing thought was it wasn't important to turn in a checklist and cross your T's and dot your I's. And it's unfortunate that nobody else was doing it, so nobody was doing it. And then the bonds came so infrequently, there was no reason to be alarmed that we've got this time bomb sitting here that's going to go off when we start again, because nobody was building and it wasn't enforced. So there was no, I don't believe there was an omission. I just believe that was the process at that time. And so we didn't go outside the process or anything else. That was just the procedure and the process at that time.
Sure, but that's what we're stuck with today. That's
Yeah.
what we've had to deal with.
We got an ankle chain on that one.
Yeah.
And we're 4% inflation, very slow.
But the world has changed.
Yes, it has. So,
Bob, thanks for your service.
Okay.
Thanks for your report. We are going to be voting on accepting the report now, but you are free to leave.
thank you.
Thank
very
you,
much.
sir.
I would also like to mention that we have another COC member in the audience, Linda Jordan.
And Linda, thank you for your service on the COC. Do you have anything you want to add?
No, he did a great job.
Cool.
And
So,
also, just for those listening, the question, we're losing $10,000 a day. So what he's saying is that as inflation goes up, the value of the dollar goes down. We're not actually losing $10,000. The value of what we have is not going to purchase as much because wood is gonna cost more, and insulation is gonna cost more, and labor is gonna cost more, so.
and there could be some phenomenon associated with fires and rebuilding as well that's
Yeah.
obviously beyond our control, so.
It means is these are staff who are actually currently working on advanced degrees or additional formal course credits. And so we do have, a number of our staff are already there in that far V column, that column 5. But we also are happy to see that we have a number of our current staff who, through additional educational credits, are able to advance themselves in the column as well. So this is an annual authorization to advance our staff on the step and column.
Anyone want to discuss it or move?
I'll move.
I would like just to note that, so this is a significant increase in our budget, around $92,000.
That's right.
You told me, that's without any of the COLA advances or negotiations that we're working on. And you guys, so that's already, Patty puts that in the budget.
That's correct. That's right.
And is this part of the process, is this contractual, is that ed code? How does it work?
Both. That's right. So our salary schedule, the use of the salary schedule is dictated by ed code. The actual, numeric values on that salary schedule, the compensation that we offer to our staff is both on the classified and the certificated side through negotiation with the representative units.
But the movement, the role on the step and column based on additional education, that's provided through the ed code?
Well, that's based on, again,
Under our
That's right.
contract to approve this?
That's
So do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Now we move services.
So whereas the last one was purely procedural, this is quite substantive. Again, as we talked about in March and April, one of the most tip is when we sit around the table and make those staffing decisions that might potentially include the reduction of staffing, either certificate or classified. In March, we brought it all, but the reductions at this time really coincide with the declining enrollment that we have at the junior high that we've discussed extensively recently.
I'll move to approve the resolution.
All second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimously approved. Now we go to this resolution, which I'm about to read. Whereas the California State Legislature adopted a resolution in 1986 declaring the third full week of May of each year as Classified School Employee Week, recognizing the many outstanding contributions and services provided by classified school employees, and whereas many and school sites creating a smooth operating educational environment, and whereas a number of classified school employees perform custodial assessment in our school facilities, and whereas many other classified school employees serve as food service workers, furnishing students with nutritional meals and snacks, enabling them to focus their attention on learning, and whereas a large group of classified school employees provide transportation services, bringing students safely to and from school and other related activities. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the Ojai Unified School District Board of Education hereby recognizes the week May 21st through 25th, 2018 as Classified School Employee Week, and honors the classified school employees in the Ojai Unified District for their many contributions to our educational community, and commends them for their shared commitment to quality education. May I have a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chuck, thank you. And now we move to our next item. 7.3.1. I'm going to hear from Mr. Guard and Mr. Javier.
Oh, Mr. Guard. They look intimidating, but they're really nice.
I was looking at the audience. They're more intimidating.
Thank you for having us this afternoon, and we're here to talk about a new and exciting elective that we're planning to offer next year for our Matilda High students. I don't know, you guys probably had an opportunity to read the description of the environmental studies class, which is going to be a component of the elective wheel. So currently, the way the elective wheel works is composed of 3 parts, where students take 1 part each trimester. So right now we have the elective will be music exploration with Mr. Fredrickson, which is taught through the ukulele, and then we have the second component of it is art, and then the third component of it is computers. So we're offering the possibility of having one of those be the environmental studies class for next year. Now that change happened because a lot of reasons. There was a lot of moving parts with our scheduling and staffing, and one of those changes happened with Thomas Fredrickson, who is going to end up being 20% at the elementary school. So that opened up the possibility of having somebody else take over a potential and elective. What makes this even more interesting and more meaningful to me is that Mr. Guard actually had a conversation with me earlier in the year, saying that he would love whenever an opportunity came up to teach some kind of an elective, hands-on elective, and I know that he is, I think, when I say extremely passionate, there's got to be something more on top of that, okay, about what he does with the kids. So when this came up, I immediately thought of Mr. Guard as being just the perfect person to do something like this. So the description is there, and we're here to try to answer any questions that you guys might have. But we're super excited about it. I think the kids are going to get a lot out of it. It's going to be very, very hands-on, like dirty hands-on. And I think that's just something that we need to really explore whenever we have a possibility, especially this age. The more of that we can do, I think the better off our kids are going to be. So,
Javier, can you explain for me how, I know how the wheel works, like, you know, you would take environmental studies in this fall and then art and then, you know.
Well,
but how does it work? Like, music is offered all day, but you're just going to teach one.
it's going to be one period. He will teach it the entire year. The kids are the ones that switch. So you have 3 cohorts.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But so you can fit all the stuff through, like.
Well, there's about 30, it's about 30, let's just say 30 kids, 32, 33 kids.
Times 3.
They go, exactly. So our whole elective wheel is about, let's say about 100 kids. It's about 1/4 of the population of Matilda go through the elective wheel.
Oh, because there's also Spanish and music.
Right, Spanish, music,
The other wheel.
our intervention
Another wheel.
classes,
Menards.
exactly. Mm-hmm.
The what?
Amber Menars'
The
wheel
health,
is separate from
the health science class,
computers.
with Amber, that's another option that they have as 8th graders,
Oh, wow. And is there still 7th grade Spanish or just 8th grade?
We haven't had 7th grade Spanish. There's a Spanish class for 8th graders.
8th grade.
Yeah, but not for 7th grade, huh?
Okay.
We haven't had 7th grade Spanish since I've been there, so. Mhm.
Sorry, I was just trying to figure
Yeah.
out. He's only doing, can you do it 3 times a day?
To work with those kids, he's the man that gets them to do stuff. Tutorial enrichments, swing by on Thursdays. I mean, you've been there. He's got kids out there with a shovel and a pick, just arranging the.
That's one thing to accomplish. It's quite another to walk away. I gave you a sheet that has kind of the projects that we've done already, and one of them, I had to step back and do the math. The kids moved something like 300 cubic feet of dirt, and when we first went, we're going to move the soil, we're going to re-landscape this other area, we're going to do some, we're going to do some little terraces to make the rain move differently, and nobody batted an eye. They kept showing up to move, and this was even before they could really see it too. And then I realized we were onto something. They went, we want to get up and move around. So I appreciate Mr. Ramirez's openness to go, let's give this a shot. I really enjoyed seeing how the kids jump into it. And it's just something I really enjoy. I feel like I get more out of it than they do, but kids keep coming back to it. And that's, I got that from Lee Burns, where it's like, just keep throwing those opportunities out, and even when it doesn't work out perfectly, it's working because they're getting that experience. So, Greg, we've been touching base with Greg LeConte too. I want this to feed into what they're doing.
And that's one of the things that we described there. That's really should be really, really good.
Yeah, Food for Thought has provided such great opportunities. We've got the garden going. Now we can do some landscaping, and it just keeps getting better. And Greg had a great point the other day we talked. And he said as he's created projects, he's always left other time to see what kind of blossoms out of student ideas. And he goes, some of those are even better than what I'm making. And it's best because they're generating things. We've had these experiences, wait, we want to try and do, and then it's done. I mean, that's really what we want. That's what we want in any class.
Mhm.
So it's, yeah, great opportunity, and I just appreciate, like I said, Mr. Ramirez going, when we say, hey, we want to try this, it was, go ahead. And, you know, I think the kids have really jumped at those opportunities.
Is there a curriculum that you're working with? Are
There's
you
a variety.
building it yourself?
There's a variety of things. I've built some stuff off of what we've done in the garden. So we go to Food for Thought, I've worked with Dr. David White. He's directed me to a couple of different things, but we also go with the guidelines that are with the pathways classes. So making sure we're looking at the water cycle, we're looking at ways to conserve and collect energy. So we're always looking for different sources, but at the same time, I want it to connect with a myriad of different topics.
So Cheryl, how does that tie in? I thought some of the pathways at Matilah were actually, was part of it being paid for by?
So certainly they will likely get funding next year to pay for, like, projects are a big thing. They can pay for, I don't know, green rooms, and this is out of my league for sure. I taught Spanish, so, but all the things he needs, and then certainly field trips is a really big thing that they pay for, guest speakers. So yes, they will
And our
likely get funding.
current pathways teachers are taking full advantage of
All that funding.
speakers, field trips,
Yeah.
just because the monies are there.
Makes for a very rich
Which,
program.
a key point, and for those in the audience, when we say money is there, we're not talking about competing with other OHI projects for
Right.
funding.
Mhm.
We're talking about the county and the
Mhm.
state providing funding for career technical education. And because this is able to link up with the currently rich program we offer at Nordoff of environmental sciences and then the field studies course, that we're able to actually receive new funding to the district to help some of these programs.
Exactly.
And both 7th and 8th grade, they mix on the.
For in the wheel, they do mix, yes. Mhm.
And I know this isn't next year, but how we'll talk about it next year.
Well, no,
We
it's
have
a-
6th graders
ask the
there.
question.
If
yeah.
you notice it, and nobody noticed it, so that I got it by you. So if you look at the top of the page, just in front of you.
Until middle school.
See, I expected Kevin to get it.
Oh, I did miss it.
So that actually, with the 6th graders, this isn't the only place where I think it's a tremendous opportunity. Whereas, however the 6th grade ends up mixing, I want to find a way to make sure that that's an opportunity. So it will happen, so that everybody's going to get out good dirty. So.
Mhm.
I like that.
It's gonna become our PE program.
No, he's gonna stay there too. Yeah, I want more opportunities for him to get out. Yeah, they just get up and around and do it.
Yeah.
Yep.
I just wanted to comment, we've seen, well, this is a great subject anyway, but I think it really resonates here in the Ojai Valley. And we've seen an increase at the elementary level, especially at Miners Oaks. And we've seen what's going on at Nordoff, and it's nice to see the river flowing through Matilahan now too. And I just want to throw it at my daughter works for the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, and I know they have grants or they'd like to fund grants for forestry projects for Los Padres. So I don't know if there's any correlation that we can tie in here, but it's worth looking at.
The
So it
possibility.
sounds like that it would replace the music
Yes,
portion of the wheel.
the music exploration portion of the wheel, exactly. Mhm.
So there are kids that wouldn't get any music at that point.
I mean, we have a great music program, and
We
they
do.
always have that option to
Yes.
choose,
No,
huh?
I
Yeah.
agree, yeah.
Mhm.
But
We'll
there's
sing
no-
while we're up
Perfect. You can get the birds to come down.
There you go.
There is, and so that's another piece we need to incorporate. There is a type of bird, so if there are any birders in here, blue with a little orange back, and that's the male. If you're out there with a mirror, they will come right up to, and they'll sing. I mean, they'll sit and hang out and sing for you. So. I didn't make him do it, I'm trained. It's not Snow White or anything like that.
Yes, there's an idea for a field trip for all of you guys.
And then Javier, can I ask, because I don't know if it was in here or I heard, so that although you're taking away music and adding this, you're also taking away computers and adding study skills?
Well, the computers is still going to stay. I'm just glad you brought that up. The computers is going to be now, we're shuffling things around. So the computers for next year, she will have her elective. Her own elective will be health science and computers. And so that's sort of think of it as the pathways, even though computer is not really like a pathway, but think of it as a pathway. So you have health science and computers by Ms. Monares, and then on the elective wheel, you will have the environmental studies class. We'll have art, and then we're bringing back personal success with Mr. Muth. He's not in the past. This is before the music exploration came up. He used to do personal success. So our elective wheel for next year will be composed of those three: personal success, the environmental studies class, and art. And then the other set of electives would be the health class with Ms. Monares.
And that's year round?
That would be year round, yeah. Health class and computers. And in that
Those
health
are each
class,
one semester.
you're right. There's going to be
Right.
subdivided, but it's a whole year.
Right.
Yes.
With one
Mhm,
teacher.
mhm.
And do keep in mind too, now with the use of Chromebooks and the focus on using the Google Suite of programs too, the students' exposure now to computer skills, it's really well integrated into pretty much every subject.
Yeah, that was my concern, but I know they really love producing, they're sort of, they're learning advertising in a way, and they're learning skills that you don't necessarily learn, but I think what you're saying is as they're coming through, they already know the skills we used to teach
Yeah.
in middle school.
That was one of the discussions that we had. I mean, when we were thinking about this, is we really ask ourselves that question: do we really need a computer class anymore? Because I remember when it used to be that's the thing that everybody has to go through. But now I got my fourth grader teaching me how to use it. So that's a question that we kind of thought about, and I see that evolving into something else maybe in the future.
Programming.
Yeah, there you go, coding. Coding, yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
So I find this really interesting, and I'm curious to know, you talk a lot about getting dirty, which I think is really good, just the whole behavioral, get out there and experience this, but along the lines of the, technology, I see a lot of places for integrating other things, including art and technology, and I mean, if you're doing landscape design and you're moving cubic volumes of dirt and is that your vision? Is it
One of the projects that we're going to do, it's going to start with them we're going to start looking at the school. One that I've looked at for a while is looking at ways to collect water. I mean, we all want to do that. Well, for example, behind the rooms, 12 and 13, the building itself is at 30 feet to the peak, 80 feet across. Gardening space, what am I going to grow? How much water does that require? So we're going to ask them to layer those things and basically build, I won't say professional level grants, but to.
So we can hire them to come.
That's a summer program.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So with water, solar, and then I think there are other applications that are going to come out of the woodwork as we work our way through that.
interesting? Thank you.
Love the resume.
Anything else?
Hopefully this is not an unorthodox interview for you. You're hired. He's done his environmental sciences curriculum basically as a resume.
Well, Mr. Ramirez goes, let's write down,
I love it.
let's look at what's been going on before the class. I thought, okay, I'll sit down and write that down, and 15 minutes later went, it's not gonna take 15 minutes. And then I went, oh, yeah, okay, these are all the things we do already. This is at least a year-long class, so we'll be okay.
Perfect fit.
Anyone else? You prepared to, this is an action item.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All those in,
There's a lot of these things that are either in progress or working out right now, and so come out and see it and throw your suggestions or questions out, and we'll love to have you out to the class.
You gonna feed a web page with pictures of everything that you're doing?
Another application that we need to
Cool.
put in.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Keep on giving it to me. Come on, write all this down.
Yes and no. The Garden Club is actually, I can give a great plug right now. With our last meetings, as we did some kind of, we've made all the soil for all the gardens. So the rain hit, and we looked and went, oh, that's neat. We'll leave whatever's there. And I looked at it the next week, and then my oldest son walked by and goes, oh my gosh, what did you do? And there are 2 beds that the volunteer tomatoes,
Yeah.
they started here, well, now they're this big. So if anybody wants any tomatoes, they're mystery tomatoes, but if they're this big and flowering, come on by, we'll dig them up. We've been throwing them in pots to people, and they'll be out for folks at open house as well. So if you are interested, they are there. And like I said, come through the garden, figs are starting, blackberries are popping out every now and then too. So yeah, a little bit of everything for everybody. Yeah.
Great.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Don't be sending this resume to any other districts, pal. So we now move to 7.4.1, California Project Application Disaster Assistance Program Application, FEMA Project Assurances for Federal Assistance Application and Resolution number 17-1824. Andy.
Yeah, so this is, again, recall we've talked about for funding following the Thomas Fire. Our district did not lose revenue as far as having the school closed. That's what this packet of materials is for, is to allow us to pursue reimbursement for expenses connected to cleanup for the fire.
I'll move to.
Yep.
There's a $22,000 purchase order, I believe it was,
Mm-hmm.
for the tennis courts, but we're asking for 10,000.
Right, so we were already doing, needing to do improvements prior to the OHI,
Okay.
prior to the plea. And so the request for reimbursement is only the extent to which it exceeded what was already going to be worked on.
Okay.
Yeah, because some of it was not at all connected to the cleanup.
Anyone else? So we have a motion. We have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
So that was unanimous. We move to update on Measure J. Andy, you want to?
Yeah, so the
Segue.
main update on this was just to let you guys know about the personnel side, again, with Ron's retirement, and again, thank him for his work. As we already said, certainly helped save the district literally hundreds of thousands of dollars in his 1.5 years here, most directly with the work that he was able to complete on both the Topa Topa kitchen as well as the Nordhoff Cafetorium stage project. So we unfortunately do have to, though, move forward, and so again, we're all and expenditures since inception, as well as the expenditures by contractor, by vendor for the current year.
Sorry.
No,
Do we expect to get the library? When's the library expected to be started?
October. So we are still on track with that. It's been submitted to DSA. We received feedback back that it made it through. There's 3 different groups within DSA that ultimately have reviewed. 2 of them have passed it pretty much already. The 3rd one is where we're still waiting, but very, very quick and positive feedback so far from DSA. So we're very much on track to have it approved by them end of June, early July, and then put together bid packets and go out to bid. But
That'll be exciting.
we're right on track. We, despite having Ron's absence, we've been able to keep this one completely moving forward at the schedule that was outlined a few months ago.
And is the plan, obviously, to put the library somewhere else for next year, or what happens?
Right, so we are looking at its relocation. We have not yet determined where that's going to be. We've been working.
School buses.
Yeah, right.
With drill holes through them.
Exactly. For those watching at home,
Not
or
the new
those
school bus.
or those in the audience, our old school buses, the ones we currently have that are going to be replaced here in about a month when we have our 3 brand new school buses come in, were required as part of the grant we received to fund the new buses to drill a hole through the engines, and those buses are no longer usable. So it's a little bit of a joke as to what we're going to use these buses that can't be moved, and so we were joking that could be the library or location of those books.
There's a person at their house right now going,
There's a few in the audience who are saying, "Oh, thank you."
That's on my new rental.
Yeah. We've actually had someone reach out to us interested in potentially making a little tiny home out of one of them. Anyway, back on track here. We haven't determined the location of where the library is going to go. We did receive funding from OEF to secure a number of databases that Denise Rumpa, our librarian at Nordhoff, submitted the grant for. to allow students to have actually a fuller, or a larger database from which to access materials for the coming year, knowing that we are going to, in all likelihood, have fewer hard copy materials available during this year of transition.
I just wanted to clarify my earlier exuberance about moving faster isn't to criticize what we've done.
Of course.
I think we've done a great job with what we've had and moving forward, but I do totally agree, time is money, and
Yep.
I think it's it's great that we have a Citizens Oversight Committee that's really providing good feedback.
Right.
Not just, saying, okay, fine. I think it's good to have constructive criticism.
Agreed.
I told Bob he could scream at us. I said, we're tough. He didn't even do that.
No, I think it actually should be remarked upon. It is not a powder puff committee, as Stan is reflecting, and yet it is congratulating and complimenting staff on the progress that you've made so far, and I think that we need to acknowledge that, particularly given that the construction has to be fit into about 20-minute segments. It's overly complicated, but I also agree with Dane, particularly because of that restriction, that we're limited to mostly the summer session. The more we can get done in the summers, the better. So, but I think you should congratulate yourself and the rest of staff, because those people don't say good things easily.
Linda does. Paul doesn't, though, and he whispers in her. Okay. We can move on. It's not an action item. Resolution number 17-1825, authorizing request for waiver of surplus property competitive bidding procedures. I'm going to summarize with respect to the district property. Go ahead.
Right, so we've been quite busy this spring with a number of things, not least of which are deliberations on sixth grade location for the future, but we certainly have not forgotten about the progressing forward with the potential lease of all or a portion of this property. So this is purely a procedural step. As a reminder, the natural way to potentially lease or sell school district property is through a bid process. Bid process requires that you take the highest bid regardless of its use. We know that the feedback I've received from this board is that we don't want to have financial considerations be the only factor considered, but potentially one among others. And so in order for us to have that opportunity, we have to go through the RFP process. To have the RFP, we have to submit this waiver request to the state. So we are ready to put together that packet, and this is the final step to be able to move forward with that. We'll submit it to the state here in the next few days, and then there's no statutory waiting period or period that we necessarily must wait. It's simply whenever it gets onto their agenda, because the CDE Board of Education, the California State Board, has to be the one to approve this waiver request. So we've been told that typically takes 2 or 3 months for them to get it onto their agenda. And so we're right back in that timeline that we've talked about for this, maybe a month or two delayed as far as having it go out, or working on the RFP right as we're returning to school, having it go out, and hopefully still receiving proposals before the end of this calendar year.
I'll move to approve.
So we have to do a open a public hearing. So we are hereby, you move?
Open the public hearing.
I'll second that.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And so we hereby open our public hearing.
But one at a time.
Chuck,
Yes.
you want to do it from up here?
Yes. I don't know if that's appropriate. I came in your meeting late, but I have a concern. I don't know the residency of all of you here with the city. This piece of land is very unique to the city, and we know that. I mean, I've been watching the process, and way back when they said $50,000 or $100,000, back when this conversation first came up, we had already had $100,000 in layoffs. And it's like, why would we get rid of an asset that doesn't even take care of the layoffs? The reason I've come up is that one of the things that happened here in town years ago was the idea of the no big box. And our fast food restaurants are outside of town as a result of a lawsuit that happened. And so I appreciate the process that we've all been going through. It's caught some people's eyes out there, though, so I just wanted to go up and say that, because I've heard several times at your meetings that you're concerned about, well, we didn't go the big box idea, maybe we missed the boat. Ohio's unique. But sorry, I got a lot to say, but I wanted to make that reference because I don't know how many people have been here, but that was an expense to the city for the building and the people of the council on the way that that whole thing happened. And it goes back a few years. And Kathy may know what I'm talking about. She's been a longtime resident.
And Chuck, one thing I wanted to clarify,
Yeah.
and Andy, please feel free if I don't get it right, but to be clear, the process that we're discussing right now is a process that will allow us to decide, if we decide to do anything, it'll allow us to decide and pick a project as opposed to being wedded to taking the highest bidder. So the process we're choosing is precisely the process I would think anyone would want us to choose who's really concerned about what would become of this property. To even discuss it, we're choosing the route that says we decide what happens, not just take whoever decides to give us the most money.
And I understand that. I've also been to some of the city council meetings and been through some of these exercises there. So I just wanted to put that out there because I don't want to see a replication. I don't even know who's left in the valley that went through this the first time, but just understanding how much pressure's on this conversation and the effects it'll have on all the schools. So I just wanted to put that out. I agree with you. And the idea of transparency, I don't know that you could be much more transparent than what you're doing, but there are people that just, they're gonna do what they wanna do. So, and where are they? You know, I used to come to these board meetings when Vince France was running them, and we'd be here till 12 o'clock at night, 1 o'clock in the morning, and these places were full, right? It was a community at that time.
We're not entertaining. We've tried.
Oh, you very much are. Yeah, you very much are. I mean, I've thought about, I don't know if people know who Johnny Carson is and that stuff. I'm aging myself, but you guys are awesome.
And for what it's worth, I don't think I've ever done what I wanted to do.
Well, and I think that's important. I mean, we talk about, we get to decide, well, not really, because we don't have the money to build it.
Right.
So we get to look at what other people are offering to do
Right.
and choose one that, or, you know, that we've heard from the community is valuable to them and that also answers the 7-Eleven committee's request, which is provides money to the school district. So we will save money by not obviously having to upkeep this property, and we will be earning money based on the lease of the property. But we won't be able to say, hey, we think the best thing is ABC. Other people who have the money to build it is gonna share their ideas, and we'll hopefully find one that.
And I did that exercise. I came here in 1980 to rebuild Ventura Harbor after the flood of 1969. And we were partners in taking care of a county plan because the county didn't have the money to do that. And just this year, they finally are developing the last piece of property. And I appreciate your example because there has been so much hurt that's happened there over who's got the most money, how many people have bankrupted and things like that. I don't say that that's the intent of this board. Where I came to Ventura County because the people of this community are genuine. And these meetings are great, and you guys are honest, and you ask the deep questions. But I have that concern, having seen that happen here before, having seen it happen at the harbor. That's part of why I'm not there anymore. Because we want to be genuine, and I feel that's there, but I wanted to throw that out. Because I do understand, but I also see all the little houses that are around us that are now motels. It's like, well, how'd that happen? Right? So I struggle with what we call community, and that's why I wanted to share that. Okay.
So is your concern, I just want to make sure I understand, that we're opening ourselves up to a lawsuit? Is that what you're suggesting? Or?
The influence, since we don't have the money and we're gonna have other people, we're using their money to get something done. And with the historical piece possibly being the front, all that, and then the state discussion versus the local discussion. I mean, you guys are in the middle of a storm, and I get it, and I appreciate the tough questions, both at the city level and here. And but where's the community in that? And that's why I'm saying with the harbor, I saw the community go away, and that's what was so painful. Okay, I compare Ojai right now to up north, where they have little horns on their head, and it says "Made in China." It's like, I just hope Ojai doesn't sell out. And I know you guys are doing the work, and I appreciate that. I don't know if the community does, because we don't see them here, right? And I don't know how many watch the TV. I watched the YouTube when you guys did the 6th grade, and thank you for having that. That was nice. Because it rained that day, so I was soaking wet. But so that's part of the transparency thing. You guys are doing that, and I appreciate that. But I do have concern of the community, and I understand what you're saying. This gives you the option more for the community. But thank you for hearing me out.
Thanks, Chuck.
Keep telling us.
And I do think actually we will probably get much more response when there's something to actually look at, right? Because right now, you know, in that meeting that we did at the auditorium and all the rest, that was a lot of what Jane is talking about that we can't do, right? We should do this, we should do that. We aren't doing anything, right? Other than just opening up our ears at this point. But I have a feeling that the minute some plan goes up on the wall, there'll be a whole bunch of people here talking about what they think. So, and I'm looking forward to that, frankly, because I think that's going to be the interesting part of the conversation.
Yeah.
Would anyone else like to speak to this? So I'm going to close the public.
I'll move to close the public hearing.
We have to move to do that. I forgot. Thought I had some
You're
power.
You don't get to do what you want.
All those in favor of closing the public meeting?
Aye.
And it is closed. I just want to say, Chuck, in response to you, that I think, just to be clear, the only thing that's clear is where we are procedurally on this subject. I mean, Jane's comments were a little different than my view of it. So, you know, in terms of where, you know, whether we will do anything or not, I'm somebody who takes comfort in knowing that we can undo the surplusing. So, because I don't know what will be presented and whether it will make sense and what the financial aspect will be. So I'd take nothing for granted. I'm not saying Jane does, but she obviously has a perspective, and I have a perspective, and we all do up here. But what we are doing is creating a procedure that we're all confident is by far the best procedure for anything like this. And it is by far the most conservative approach, which is to not put ourselves at the mercy of a bid, but instead to request proposals and then vet those proposals along with you and everybody else in our community, and very deliberately look at this question, which we all agree has to be looked at. But whatever the outcome is, that is to be seen.
I would just like to add to that, I never, ever would have voted for the surplusing if we couldn't take it back, if we didn't like where we saw things going. But we're 5 different people, yeah.
Anyone else?
You know, I just want to thank Chuck for making the remarks. I know that they're sincere. I know that he really cares, and I hope you will continue to do that as we go through this process. You know, having you out there, giving us the benefit of your experience is really valuable to us. So, thank you.
And so we need to take action.
I'll move to approve again.
All those in favor? Aye. So we are going this route. And now we go to item, see you guys, 7.5.2, resolution number 17-18-26. Effectively, this is authorizing our election this coming fall. Andy?
That's right. So it's authorizing the consolidation of our election with the broader state election that takes place November 6th. If we did not do this, then we would actually be running a separate concurrent election where it'd be far more expensive. So as it stands, doing it this way costs the district between $5,000 and $12,000 in a given election. But this just allows us to have the school board position on the same actual literal ballot, physical ballot as the other offices up for election. So this allows us to move forward in that direction.
I like you all on the board. Can we do what the Chinese did and just not have an election?
You're too well informed. I would have gone Russia, but or Turkey.
Well, they still have an election in Russia, but we just.
So,
I mean, unless there's questions, I'll move to approve the resolution.
all,
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, we're basically just piggybacking
Exactly.
on the general election.
And we do this every 2 years.
Every election.
So now it's an exciting item, Resolution 171827. We want to move, it's an action item to approve the creation of a student advisory council. And Jane has been the driver of this, and I think Jane can talk about it a little.
Thanks. I'm sure you all got a chance to read it. I think the purpose of tonight, in addition to voting on it, would be to discuss whether we wanted to change any of it. I think it's pretty straightforward, except qualifications for application. If somebody wanted to change that, and responsibilities, I mean, those are up for discussion, obviously.
If somebody has, my just overall feeling is, we're trying something new, and we have to start somewhere. So this is a great place to start.
And that's where I kind of thought, well, you don't just have an election, you have to make sure that the students know what they're running for, and it's not just, unpopular got voted, and so then I thought, well, so they should have somebody, like a recommendation. So I just kind of, these things, I just thought, well, a teacher or a counselor or a coach recommendation, that seems to make sense. They have to meet these 3 requirements, and then they can run for the election.
Makes sense to me. This is not a game. It's a serious thing. They're making a commitment. I like the idea of meeting with the administrator to really understand what the commitment is that they're putting themselves up for. There's a lot of work went into this. I think it's really interesting. Yeah, I think it's covered very nicely. It's written by an academic, you can tell. School people, because there's always sort of the learning objectives, what are we gonna, but.
Well, there should be a footnote. Actually, I'm sorry, I was looking at qualifications, but also application process is more what but most of the other stuff is pretty straightforward in terms of board representatives. So.
My only question about the qualifications was the 3 periods a day, that they be at Nordoff at least 3 periods a day. That seemed odd to me, and that it wasn't more.
I guess 4, what's our requirement?
I think 4 is the
4.
requirement.
Yeah, so we should change it to 4. And we don't have students.
It seems odd to have a student representative who's only there half the day, that doesn't participate in everything. They're just there maybe the first 3 periods.
Yeah, I think that makes sense too, given the focus as being a representative. So I would be good with 4.
Works for me.
All for it.
And just to put this in perspective, this has been a desire of the board to have more student input, and this is what we're doing, at least as you said, an experiment to see how it works. Anyone else have anything?
Just a question. Is there any way that someone could get academic credit for doing this now that it's turning into something real?
Yeah, so I do see that as a possibility. I think that, as we've had our conversations in the past, about mock trial or some other courses, that certainly there's arguments that this could be, on par with that. So yeah, I think we'll certainly be looking into that, and I see that as a one more encouragement for students to potentially consider this.
Cool.
Yeah, Andy and I had briefly talked about it, and I was concerned, the junior and senior reps are obviously, since they're asked to read the materials and come to the board, it's a little different than the freshman and sophomore reps. So there needs to be, so we kind of felt like, let's run it for the first year and see, you know, what is their commitment, how is this
Right.
working, and then we can always, update the resolution.
Does anybody
And
run?
it doesn't even necessarily
Yeah,
need
well,
to be
that-
within the resolution, that can be, you
Yeah,
know,
I
administrative.
would say, you know, as having been the coach of the mock trial team, that I think it would be, this seems perfectly in keeping with that kind of thing, and that these kids should get that same, I mean, we give kids a grade for being in the musical. So it seems like, I mean, I'd like to add that incentive if you guys, you know, you and Cheryl decide it's appropriate, because I think it is an incentive for some kids, and we'd like more interest than less.
Absolutely.
Well, I think it's a good idea. I like it. I have to say, I was a little skeptical to begin with, but reading this whole process, it really makes a lot of sense to me, so I like it a lot.
And it'll take, you know, in my opinion, it'll take time to, you know, sort of get the students to understand that, hey, here's an opportunity. Not the students to run necessarily, but the regular student body to go to your rep and have, you know, sort of, that's why one of their responsibilities is to sort of figure out ways to hear from their peers. Is it gonna be a lot, you know, hey, the first Friday of every month, or we have during lunch and snack we're out there, or I don't know, they're gonna have, that's part of their responsibility is to figure out how do they get information and concerns from their peers. They'll have better ideas than I would think.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it.
And obviously, I mean, I had put the term of office that they're elected in the spring. I don't know if that's like, oh, then we're doing 2 elections because we have to do the freshman in the fall. But I felt like, but we have August meetings, I'd love to have,
I think that makes total sense.
and obviously this year we won't, I don't think so, I think
It's
we
gonna be
would-
challenging at
The
this
first
point.
year, we would just do it in the fall for everybody.
Especially for the first year, it's gonna be a lot of messaging as well to really make sure students know about it and what it is. So I think that for this coming year, we would be looking at the fall, but I think that having a spring election going forward is very common when it comes to, you know, elected positions within a student body to have it in place, so that way they hit the ground running in the fall.
And it's possible that once it's up and running, these representatives go and talk to the 8th graders, and they could do an election, hold an election at Matilla High. And 8th
My only
grade.
concern with that is that students who don't go to Matillaha,
Right.
who come to Nordoff, then they wouldn't have a chance to run as
Well,
freshmen.
which happens every year, though. I mean, kids come in as transfer students. I think
That's what I mean, but if you hold the election at Matillaha, they're not getting, we could talk about it at Matillaha, but the election still would need to happen in the fall for the freshmen.
to be inclusive.
Yeah.
Anyone
It would
else?
be interesting just to, how many students are there that, I mean, we're kind of off topic, but how many students are there that don't go to Matillaha that end up in 9th grade at Nordoff? Doesn't seem like it would be a
Yeah,
very
it's a small
big number.
population.
It's not-
I mean, certainly we net lose students between 8th and 9th grade.
Well, that's another concern, because for me, it was sort of like, well, students say, oh, I'm not going to Nordoff, I'm going to Villanova, and then they decide, actually, I wanna go to Nordoff, you know? Or the other way around, you have somebody who runs and then their parents move, or, I don't know.
Right. But that would be true with every
That-
grade,
that's
right?
true.
I'm just
Right.
wondering if it might get students more excited about going to Nordoff if they saw that there was I don't know the right answer.
Interesting.
I'm just, yeah, I'm just talking.
That's what you do up here.
Okay.
Is somebody going to mentor these kids? I see that civic engagement is not something that people know how to do very well. So I'm just wondering if there's going to be, like, when they first come in, they won't know. They won't even know how to get people to give them their opinions. So, I mean, I have trouble with that just in my position. So I'm just wondering if somebody's,
Yes, there'll be an advisor, an adult advisor,
okay,
and it'll be a representative from the board.
okay,
Next year, it'll be me.
okay.
I volunteered.
So it'll start out great. Where it goes from there, we have no idea.
Second year, where's Mr. Ruff? He's supposed to be here. Everyone prepared to vote? I will move to approve this interesting.
I don't mean to interrupt.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I have your daughter from basketball.
Yeah, she's gonna.
practice.
Thank you.
The only reason why I did it is because you approved the elective.
Thank you.
Otherwise, you would have to walk home. And that's-
I didn't realize this was a
Thanks,
service
Avi.
you provided, huh?
Yeah.
Because I need the number. Our own personal Uber system in the school system.
Thanks, Javi.
I'll second, or unless somebody else did.
All those in favor?
Aye. Thank you for doing all this work on this,
Yeah,
too.
thanks, Jane.
Fun,
It's exciting.
exciting.
All right, well, now we're going to continue discussion on board member benefits. And I guess all I'll say, it's just a discussion item at this point, but I would like to find a way to bring this issue to a vote before the next election. I would like a decision to be made about board member benefits to apply to those board members who are elected starting this fall.
So thank you for continuing this discussion.
Yeah.
I watched the video. It's interesting. I realized that we started taping these meetings about 3 years ago, and I don't think I'd missed a meeting. And so I watched this for the first time, and it was so weird looking at my empty chair from up there. And it was like a creepy movie or something. Anyway, but the discussions were always interesting. One of the things I love about this board is we're willing to talk about anything publicly. I really like that. I think it says a lot about us. I think it says a lot about the community. I think it's just really a positive thing. Although this is one item that I don't really like to talk about, and I'll tell you why. And then I'll go ahead and talk about it a lot. The reason I don't like to talk about it much is because I don't want anybody running for the school board to get benefits. I never want that to be the motivation. I think I personally think it's a really important thing to have, but I don't think it should ever be the motivation. When I went through a different process when I first got on the board, but I've gone through the election process as well. But when I first went through the appointment process, I had no idea there were benefits. It never occurred to me, and then I found out there were. And you know, I'll make this personal, but we didn't have health insurance for years. And so it was a great benefit to me personally. Another interesting thing, but I think there's plenty of room for opinions on both sides of it. And I have had former board members come to me, both telling me that it's something we should really get rid of, and former board members coming to me saying it's something we should really keep. So and I respect, you know, all the people who have opinions on both sides. It's not one thing. I took a couple of notes from the discussion in the last meeting. And then I had some questions too, because I totally support your wanting to have an action about it. But I think there are some questions that what kind of action it is and how do we frame it, because there are so many issues involved. But a couple of things.
And that's why I thought it was important to have everyone involved, because I think that's exactly what we have to discuss. I mean, how do you frame it, et cetera. So.
Right. The one thing I really like about it is having benefit, well, I like having benefits. See, I'm honest to nobody. But I think as a policy, and the argument that I heard from former board members years ago was that it brings professionalism to the board. Now, we're fortunate to have board members who want to do it on a totally volunteer basis. That's fantastic. I can't think of anything better than that. But there are also board members who feel like they need benefits to justify their taking time away from work or other responsibilities to do it. And I think that there is a, the concept of price elasticity, the economic principle that you charge people whatever you can charge people to get something. When I don't want to go on forever, but when my family lived in Bangladesh, if I went to the store to buy groceries, I would pay 10 times more than our local cook. In fact, we could hire a cook because when he went grocery shopping, he would save more than his salary in buying the groceries. If my wife went, it cost her half as much as me, but it still cost her 5 or 10 times more than the cook. So, where you can where you can pay people the amount that they need, then it's a win-win for everybody. Why is there a need for professionalism on the board? We have the largest budget and we impact more people in the valley than any other public agency. I think the only organization that might be bigger than the school district is the Inn. I'm not sure that there's anybody else even in that league in terms of employment, in terms of everything. And while we have good professionals running it on a day-to-day basis, I think it's really important that we have solid board members sitting in these chairs. Now, whether you as a community think we're solid, that's what you need to decide periodically. But my concern in elections past is there are people who run for the offices who I think are fantastic, who I think will be good board members. They typically get elected. We also have people who I wouldn't want to vote for. So far, I think I've always voted for the people who won. But there are good people who have run who haven't won. I think Kevin's a great example. Your first time around, I was shocked that you didn't win. And I'm glad that you did. But I think getting good people who are dedicated, who are willing to be here and do the job that's not always easy, that does sometimes take a lot of time. And to be honest, sometimes it takes a whole lot more time than it does other times. It's not, like a 9-to-5 thing. It's, sometimes we get really involved, sometimes, it's not so much. But to have people watching over this organization, I think is really important. There was a comment in the last meeting about there are a lot of people who do a lot of volunteer work for the schools and never get anything from it. That's absolutely true. I did that for years with the OEF, on the OEF board. And for most of those years I served as president. And the thing that really hurt me the most was I would have board members come to me on a fairly regular basis and just say, I can't afford to keep doing it. I need to resign from the board because I can't afford to do it anymore. And then there were some people who stayed on and on and on who were fantastic. And I think everybody comes from a different place. And what I don't ever want to do is make it so that good people who we would really want serving on the board decide not to serve on the board because they feel like they can't afford to dedicate the time.
So I'm not
Yeah.
trying to be argumentative.
No, I think, aren't we supposed to have a discussion?
Yeah, so my question is, what about offering benefits makes it more professional versus not having, you say we need a professional board?
Well, kind of the definition of the word, usually professional people get paid for doing what they do. But I think that, and again, there are great people who do volunteer work who don't get paid for anything and do great work. I'm not saying that you can't have one.
But I would
What do you
argue
know?
that those volunteers get to decide every single time that whether they go out and do that volunteer job or not. Whereas as board members, you're pretty much expected to be here when
Right.
we schedule the meeting.
Yeah, I mean, we really
You don't
take
get to pick and
I don't
choose.
know if it's in the oath or if it's, I know we signed something that says we're gonna do it
Right.
for the whole term of what we're elected to.
Right.
I mean, we don't have to, and there've been board members who just show up and don't do anything. Which, you know, I don't think we have at all, but it's happened. And so, you know, I think that is, I think there was also a comment about when years ago, when Linda Taylor was talking about compensation, that there was a comment that, well, we're in worse financial shape today than we were then. As I remember it, we were in much worse financial shape then than we are now. It was either right before or right during the furlough days and massive layoffs. And so things were much more difficult then. Not that it makes it right, just because I think we're in better financial shape now than we were then, but just to clarify that. And then there was then there was another comment about comparing it to the city, where, and it's absolutely true that the city can tax whatever it wants to tax, and we're subject to whatever the state wants to give us. And there is a real distinction there. But what I would just say to that is, you know, our budget and number of employees and the people that we impact is so much larger than the city that I think it makes sense that there be some kind of compensation for, you know, the people who are watching out for this organization. Not that it's full-time, but we do. And some of it, you know, I think is how much some people internalize or take the responsibility to do something. And I think, and again, it's not for everybody, but I think, you know, if you're being compensated to do something, often you take it much more to heart and you work hard. That's not always true. I've been a volunteer where I was, you know, extremely dedicated and never got paid for it. I mean, I've done a huge amount of volunteer work in my life, but there are times when, you know, on the squad, and just being honest and open about it, I think, you know, this is really hard to, you know, to worry about some of this stuff and to spend the time and to do it all and take time away from work and take time away from other things. And, you know, it would be hard for me to do without some kind of compensation. So that's mostly what I had to say about the general topic. And then when we get to, you know, what kind of action item, then I would have some more questions. But I feel like I've pontificated enough.
Well, so I can just say, you know, as you know, because I ran in 2012, this subject has been on my mind since I've been
And we had this
running or
conversation
having
then.
been elected,
Yeah.
right?
No, and
And-
when you said
right.
before that you've been thinking about
Right.
this ever since you got elected, I was thinking, man, he's been thinking about that a long time.
Right.
before he got-
So it's 2018. I've been
Yeah.
on the board for 3 years, and when I ran, I made it quite clear that I would like to see our school board become a volunteer board. And so while I don't think there's anything that you said that's wrong, a couple of things. One is I also feel, and this is more of a discussion about what, as you said, what it is that we end up voting on. I don't feel it would be fair to a current board member to change the policy for him or her during their term. So I would never, I don't even know if it would be legal, but even if it would be, I wouldn't want to do it. What I would seek to do is to have a board consensus on the question of should we going forward become a volunteer board as of this coming election. And, I mean, I don't know if now's the time or if this is more procedural time, but when the discussion comes up, I think that there are surely good arguments on the different sides. From my perspective, I think that there's so much that gets done in a school district that is on a volunteer basis and I don't think that distinctions can be that clearly drawn between somebody who, like you, signed up to be the OEF president, who agreeing to be something and taking on whatever that meant and being a responsible person, therefore doing the things that it meant, even if they weren't all obvious at the beginning. Right. A PTA president, what have you. I think there are just a lot of volunteers. But I also feel like whenever I see the kinds of terrible balancing acts we do, or the decision of whether this relatively modest amount of money has to be pulled out of the district because we just don't have it anymore, or we can't afford anymore to have a music teacher for another half a period or what have you. I just feel like personally that I as a trustee would think we would be better off going to a all volunteer board, and it's funny because one of the things you said was when you got right. You're referring to being chosen during the time Steve Fields had been on the school board and the school district. So I actually threw myself into the ring 3 times. The third time was the charm for me, because the first time was when the school board had lost Steve Fields and they had asked all comers to come and apply for appointment. And and that's how Thane was appointed.
I was surprised you didn't win that.
Yeah, I wasn't. But you said you were shocked that this benefit exists, and I think that that's a reflection of kind of like we don't expect such a benefit to be associated with this kind of with doing things in the school district. And it is expensive, and like Mike pointed out, he said, "Wow, how is it that we have this ed code that allows us to pay either a stipend of like whatever it is, $200, or medical benefits? How did that get so out of whack?" And I said, my thought was it probably because at one time they were effectively the same value.
No, I totally agree. I think that was the
so it
reason.
now is extremely, a very expensive thing. But anyway, I mean, I don't have all that much more to say about it. It's just, if I were sitting here today and we were being asked, we have these limited resources, how do we deploy them? I would choose not to deploy some of those resources towards board benefits. Going forward.
I would also just throw out there to discuss, there's a part of me that feels like by offering health benefits, you would actually get people running for that purpose rather than for the real purpose of this board, which is to serve the community and make these difficult decisions. I wouldn't want somebody running just because they heard that there's great health benefits. I would at least want to make it a lower, 50-50, like you can choose health insurance, but you have to pay 50% of it, or you don't get the health benefit, you just get the stipend option. I have concerns about, but that's a lot of money, and I agree with you that you know, I think it's better spent on programs and on students, teachers.
And I don't disagree with anything either of you have said, I just disagree, right?
Anyone else?
And I just, my point on that, but I want to hear what
Yeah.
everybody else has to say, but I think my only point on that is I don't want somebody to decide not to run because they just feel like they can't afford to put in the time because they're having to give up time to work or time to do whatever else.
Yeah, I recognize that this kind of thing is very traditional for boards. All the school boards, other than the ones, you know, here that listed don't have it, the college boards have it, councils have it, and it's a not untypical thing, right? That it's a stipend or benefits. But when money is tight, I think you have to look at why you're spending money, right? So I know why I give benefits to employees, because I need them working. I need them at work, right? And I want to keep them, because turnover is expensive, and absenteeism is expensive. I'm not sure why we do it for boards, other than that it's always been that way, right? I don't frankly have any of my expenses reimbursed by the health insurance, right? If I have to take time off from work or anything else, health insurance doesn't help me with that. It doesn't get any of the work that I'm not doing done. I still have to work a weekend to catch up and, you know, all of that. So the insurance doesn't really do that for me. Neither does the stipend, frankly. You know, at $240 a month, I think I spend almost as much on laundry as I do as that, you know, for work clothes. But it covers mileage and whatever, so it's, I mean, it's not a huge thing. The imbalance is really puzzling to me. I agree. I don't think that we want to set up where people run for the fringes, right? Because that's not the idea. And I would be puzzled by someone not running because insurance wasn't available. Frankly, and with all respect to anybody that might feel that way, I would question their commitment to the role, because if not getting insurance is what it takes to not do it, then it's like, well, why are you doing it? And yet it is traditional, and so I guess this is just my problem. I always find a middle ground. I'm not completely sold on getting rid of them, but I think there are some other ways of approaching it. For one thing, I don't, the full freight on it seems like a lot. And splitting it or giving people access to it, to the plan. The fact is, you're probably not going to get an individual or a family plan at this cost.
You can't.
If you do it independently.
You
right?
can't get these benefits.
Or
either.
anywhere, yeah, you can't
even
get
for
this
any
plan.
cost, you
right.
can't get these benefits.
So even allowing someone to buy into the plan is a benefit. You know, the 50% is closer to rationality than 100%. I just, I don't know. I recognize the tightness of the money. I'm just not all the way to nothing, because I do think that we individually can make that decision as well, right? And that's a constituent issue. I know, for instance, you know, if I'm asked when we run, I have full insurance at work. I don't take it here anymore. I did the first year and now I don't. And that's fine. There are retired people who don't have benefits that this might assist. It might assist them focusing more on this role. But it's a very expensive gratuity at this point, and I think that's really what it is. It's not intended to be a salary or to pay us to do this. It's a tip. It's a, you know, it's a nice thing. I think the tip has gotten really expensive.
So I'm the last one then. I'm sitting heavily on the fence, like it sounds Michael is. I do see that there are people who wouldn't do it because there aren't benefits. And I understand that, because like Thane, we didn't have benefits forever. For all the years the kids are growing up, and it's tough without benefits. And the first time I ran, I really questioned. I wasn't sure if I would take them or not, because we didn't have benefits. And it is a question, do I seek out more employment that takes me away from doing this in order to be able to afford mediocre benefits? Or do I do this and be able to afford them this way? So I do see that it is a compelling reason to run. And I don't slight anybody for having that be part of their reasoning for running, to be frank. It can't be the only reason, and I think voters, can see through whether that's, you're gonna phone it in for benefits is a whole different deal.
But I should leave, go ahead.
You go ahead, I don't mind.
Well, I was just thinking, the year that the three of us ran, a week before you had to decide whether you were running, there was no one running. And I was like, oh my God, I've been very involved in the schools, and I knew there was 2 retirees. So I put my name in, and then within the 5 days, there was what that year, 11?
We all did that exact same thing, I think,
But
Kevin
this
and I were there the
past
same
year,
day.
with the 2 of you, there were people going, hey, they offer benefits, I really wanna do this, and I'm running. I mean, there wasn't, people ran the year we ran, I think because they knew people were retiring. It's very hard to run against an incumbent.
Right.
But, I don't think it was this past time when you and Thane ran for reelection. I didn't see people trying to compete in a big way for that, even though we do have the benefits. So dropping the benefits isn't gonna, we're not losing people that we don't have.
We have.
Bringing cake here didn't bring the masses.
We have a nice respite from this intense conversation with a speaker. Teresa wants to say something. And Teresa, in the future, you can just go, rough, I want us to talk.
So I know you'll have to make your own decision on whether or not you retain board benefits for the board members in the future, but personally, I think you should keep them. When I sit there and listen to everything you have to go through and the depths to which you really consider the topics that affect me personally, my students, my coworkers, the community, I'm thinking, and they do this for free? I didn't know you guys got benefits for a really long time when I first joined the district. And when I heard about that, I thought, okay, good. They really deserve that because there's so much effort that goes into it. And we need high quality people here representing us as a school district. And so I would encourage you to retain those benefits because I think you guys really deserve any type of compensation possible. I really appreciate the work you do, and if our school district can support that, I think you should do that. We've already been through worse times than what we're facing right now. So potentially our money manager over there will see that that it's appropriate to retain those benefits. So that's my 2 cents worth, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chuck?
This has been a conversation since the first day I started here. And I was amazed. I came here because of the benefits. Told the superintendent that's why I was coming here. I went through 3 interviews, and he said, well, you're honest. And I said, you don't expect me to be? I'm here for benefits. I have 6 kids. All my kids are raised. I haven't been here very long. We didn't have any directors in the district at the time. They were all supervisors. I hadn't been here very long, and I said, well, now I understand why you have benefits. The stress around here will kill anybody, okay? And you guys have all, I so appreciate the child that you represent on this process. You guys have all reached out because you're for the student. That's what I like about this OHI. Okay, we haven't lost sight of that. And I was here in 2001 when that tragedy happened, and as a groundsman being on these fields, kids were saying, what's wrong with the adults? Everybody was affected in 9/11. Who can comprehend that? I have never lost sight of the student. I came here because of benefits. Okay? I'm telling you that. I'm not a professional. To me, that's not even part of the conversation. The vesting that you guys have shown in this district, benefits or not, so if they offer them and you waive them, as you suggested, that's happened before. Classified employees have said for years, why did the board have benefits and we don't? It's like, that's not even a fair conversation. That's like somebody saying what you do and don't do, because we really don't know how much time each of you invested. I see you guys, several of you, I see at the schools on a regular basis. So by offering those benefits, we're investing in people, whether you use them or not. Okay, I have people that come here to work for 2 hours. I don't even know how that's possible. Price of gas coming and going, but there's dynamics of family. The families work that out. There's a couple of you pointed out those examples. Yes, it's expensive, but I believe that we're investing in the people by offering those benefits. I was here in the days of Health Net when it was close to that $200 a month kind of thing. I saw those big 300% changes, and I've been involved with negotiations of benefits over the years. And when we used to be SIBO, and then we went CISC, and then we did another CISC. And so I've wrote this thing out, but just like our schools and the way things are being dictated to us, funded or not, the same thing's happening in healthcare. It's pretty amazing that I'm 60 years old and still standing here. I mean, you know, that says all for healthcare right there, okay? So I would not shy away from it. Yes, it's an expense, but I really respect what happens with this board. Vince France used to fill this room, and I just remember that. In fact, I planted that tree right out there, just in honor of all the work that he did all these years, the retired police chief that just kept with this community. And I feel that each of you have done that. And my classified staff has a hard time when they go from 4 hours just dental, vision, and life to 3.5, and so they don't get that anymore. And in their family dynamic, that 4 hours was important to them. And I wouldn't want this taken away from you. I see the deep questions that you ask, the time that you put into it. This student thing, that's why I share the 2001, those kids see me every day out there working. I have no idea how it affects them. I know that single families is a majority of our community, and that's really troublesome to me. To see the effect that we have without even knowing the effect we have, and to not offer that health benefit, you have no idea how you've affected somebody. If you offer that out there and they equate it however it's going to be, so they do come here for benefits. But are they committed? And I think that, like your volunteering kind of thing, there's plenty of people that could volunteer, have the ability to volunteer, and wouldn't do it if you asked them. That's the individual. So I've supported this board. The example, we've had 2 people, as you mentioned in your election, they had been here 15 and 16 years. Each of those board members had benefits, and that's part of what we do with offering benefits is the longevity. Because if you look at the last 3 years in classified employees, it's been very expensive. 24, 25, 26 people per year resigning, retiring. Those are all expenses. And we keep adapting. And benefits is part of that conversation. But I think that you're putting glue to this thing to hold it all together. I don't know what the future is going to be on the benefits. We used to see 6%, 7%. PPOs used to be more expensive than HMOs, and what happened? And then throw in the penalty for not having insurance. I have employees right now that are having to pay penalty. So not only did they lose the benefit, but now they're paying a penalty. And those are all parts of the bigger conversation. So I would encourage you to keep your benefits, and I'll encourage my members that if they want to know what you do, ask, look, because you guys are out there. So I support you guys keeping your benefits.
Thank you.
I mean, although Chuck, you do understand that, you know, potentially resources that are used for board benefits could go towards actual employees.
Artificial intelligence has already replaced me with a robot. But I deal with people. I've told Andy more than once, 2 dimensions, the top of the page, bottom of the page. Great with spreadsheets. This isn't a big box store. Okay. We deal with people on a daily basis. They have needs. Part of those are benefits. So if we just did it, we have a grounds guy over there at 6 hours. There was 8 hours there, but we took that hit. Okay. Yes, it does mean cuts. I could be one of them. I get it. But I've never forgot that kid, any of them. And I so appreciate, like, the last one about the discussion about guns, and then the very next day, a crisis happening. We're having those honest conversations here, and that's why I say that. I came here for benefits. My kids are all raised now. Got one that's gone through cancer, so I'm almost done. Okay, but those are the dynamics of family, and that's over here supporting family.
Thanks, Chuck. Angie? Yes. So your audience can hear you.
Now, remember, if you talk, you're gonna have to talk too, because that's.
Let's see. First of all, I want to say that you never cease to amaze me. It's such a thoughtful conversation that you're discussing your compensation for the job you do. Before I was on the board of OFT, or I've been on other boards, I would have said, "Are you kidding? They get compensated? That's crazy." Until you do the work on a board and you realize the work that you do and the time that people put into being on a board. You put tremendous time and effort into what you do. And you see that if you're sitting in the audience. And I see it all the time. So personally, I think you should be compensated. I think that you deserve to be compensated in some manner. I do not believe $240 a month, if that's what it is enough. Not for the amount of work that you do to serve our district and our students and the teachers. Do I think a full package of benefits is correct or right? I don't know. I can't say, I can definitively say you shouldn't get that, because it doesn't seem right to me. Do I think that you should get some portion of that package? Yes. Do I think you should have to contribute to it? Yes. Because then I think you're getting compensated for what you're doing, but at the same time you're showing a commitment to being part of the board and saying, I'm not just here for the benefits. And I agree. I agree that we are in a difficult time. Hopefully the most difficult times have passed. But I also, I want money for my raise and my OFT members' raises. I want money. I want that. I want that to come to us. And I want it to come to Chuck, and I want those people to still have their hourly positions and time put out. But I think it diminishes what you do by saying you shouldn't be compensated for it. And I really and truly believe that you deserve to be compensated in some manner. How you figure that out, one, it's just phenomenal that you're sitting here having the conversation about how you should be compensated. What your time is worth, it's worth something. And yes, I know we have a lot of volunteers who come, but if they're still not putting, I don't know, maybe your wife, but I don't know. I don't know how much, like, this is a big job. Yeah, and I think you're lucky because people, well, maybe I'm not, maybe not, but I feel like people are pretty polite in Ojai. I don't know how many phone calls you get or if you get accosted at the grocery store or whatever, but a lot of board members do get that, and right now things are great. Maybe that'll change. So all I'm saying is, I do think you should be compensated, and I don't think $240 a month is acceptable. And how you figure that out with your benefits or not is up to you. But that's all.
Thanks, Angie.
Thank you, Angie. What you said made me think. And some experiences over this last year where my eyesight's getting really bad, and I'm like, dang, I wish I had vision coverage, because I could sure use a new pair of glasses so I can read these minutes, but can't afford them at the present, so we'll wait. And yet, I with the full benefits package, I didn't feel like I could accept that in this position. So I have waived those benefits. But if there was a possibility of a 50-50 version or just a piece, then perhaps I would accept compensation. Because right now it is entirely voluntary. And I don't know, I sit very much on the fence. I personally think, you know, if I keep trying to put myself out there, okay, so if I was looking at a board and I wasn't sitting up here making the decision, what decision would I want them to make? What decision would I want my elected official to make? Because that's essentially who I need to be thinking about. And I do actually think that my elected officials, I want them working for me, and I'm willing to pay them for that. How much is to me the question. So I appreciate all of you speaking and showing support for compensation for the board, that is valued, because I think that's essentially what we're saying is we value the work that's being done enough to say, here, this is what we value. And I think that's our question, is how much do we value that?
So if we were to bring this to an action item or multiple things to the action item, you know, I wonder, you know, it seems to me that the things that have been talked about are to maintain it as we have, to do like a half situation where half benefits are provided and you could buy additional if you wanted. Or you guess you probably would have to, you know, whatever, the district subsidizes half the cost. Or doing away with benefits altogether. So what do you collectively think is how we take this forward?
Well, I was thinking about when we were talking about with school closures, Linda was the president. And before we did the actual vote, she had everyone say, what are your top two options? You know, so we could just say, you know, Michael, do you think it should be stay as it is, 50%, or nothing at all? And, you know, unless somebody has a fourth option, I don't know what the fourth option would be, or another suggestion. And then if we sort of we have two kind of things, then we bring it to an action item at another point? I mean, what do you think of that?
Well, I think the problem would be that procedurally, if, for example, we were to all, you know, vote on the top two, that becomes an action item, because if the top two were do away altogether or half benefits, you've just voted to do away with what's currently the situation. So, and that wouldn't be procedurally allowed because it's not an action item.
Well, the next vote could be,
right,
do we do this or get rid of them?
Right.
I mean, you can tie it in.
Well, I guess that too. I guess the default here is that we don't change anything. So if we didn't get sufficient yay votes on any alternative, by definition, we then maintain the current status. So
I had a question though on the cash option. Is that ed code, is that statutory?
yes. So statutory, as I understand it, and I've looked at it over the years, is that the Department of Education gives you two alternatives, and you can't take both. You get either this $240 if you choose it, or you can get the same benefits that are offered to full-time certificated employees in the district.
Okay.
So that's why we have a situation where you get the full package of benefits, or you can get $240, or you can
But they don't
choose
set the
nothing.
amount at
They-
240,
Yes, they do.
a minimum of, or something.
No,
I
it's,
thought you said some here
it's a
was
it's a maximum, right? It's
Right, so they
you
set,
can't-
they set the statutory amount back a number of years ago, based on the ADA of a district, so there's actually an ed code, a number of different
Oh,
thresholds.
okay.
Two-
Right, yeah.
240
Yeah,
was
we're the
for our
small.
size, but then they allowed a 5% increase the board could approve on an annual basis. So there are some districts that are our size that started at 240, but by now they're at 400 because they did those annual increases. But then there's also bigger districts who are already, we're at 540 and they've just stayed there. So that's why you do see differences between, but yes, also it's a cap, it's not a required minimum.
And I had some other questions as
Yeah,
I was
go
reading
on.
through this. They aren't directly on point, but they're on point. It seems to me, and the materials that we had, it seemed like they might have been abbreviated policies. But I remember former board members could buy in.
It
Was
changed
that-
with Ricky. Ricky was the last
Well, she was
rehired.
the last one. I thought that we were providing full benefits to former members.
It changed with Ricky, yeah, the law, I think, changed on that, but she was grandfathered.
Right, but what I thought was still there was that former members could still buy in. They wouldn't get,
I saw that in here.
it wouldn't be paid, but they could buy in.
Yeah, it's-
Was that changed?
It's here. It's on the second page, second to last paragraph. May participate provided for, oh, no, that's not it. I saw it somewhere.
Yeah, I didn't, that's why I had the question.
What, are
Yeah.
you looking at 3 of 6, Michael? What, oh, no, you didn't.
Four
I
of
saw
6.
that.
It's 4 of 6. This district shall pay the premiums for health and welfare benefits for any former board members who served in office after January 1st, 1981, began his or her term before January 1st, 1995.
That's where the district shall pay the
Yeah,
premiums.
she's talking.
Oh. That's the only reference I saw.
Health and welfare benefits for former board members. Former board member, bottom of page 3. Former board members may participate in the health and welfare programs provided for district under the conditions specified below. Shall.
Right, I don't know what those conditions are.
Well, it appears the conditions are the no greater than current staff, and then we have the,
District paid benefits.
right.
So you're interpreting that last paragraph would be the buy-in paragraph,
May
and then the next
participate.
page is the district paid benefits? Is that how?
No, I'm not sure that's the case, but Kathy, remind me, we didn't,
I don't believe any
There's no-
former board members receive benefits.
well, I'm certain that no current board, or no former board members currently receive benefits. I'm certain of that, because I did look into it recently. But we didn't actually condense any portion of this policy, right? This is the
Absolutely
entire,
not.
so yeah, so there's no,
This is the full
there's
policy.
nothing that's lacking from here.
But I think I take that second to last paragraph to say you may participate in it, means you can buy it, even if you're no longer on the board.
Well, it's saying based on the conditions specified below. So again, the first condition listed would be health and welfare benefits for former board members shall be no greater than those received by district employees with the most generous schedule of benefits. And then it appears to me that the continuation goes, yeah, so it's a little weird the way it's done because the way it bleeds on to the next page, it's parenthetical from the prior page, government code 53208.5. Benefits paid by district, the district shall pay the premiums for, so I think those are the two conditions that's being referenced in that prior paragraph.
So they go together, so the district pays for that period of time and no better than
I
what
don't know,
the
I read it
employees get.
differently.
Yeah,
You
it's
may
pretty
participate in it as long as you're not given more than the employees. Or if you meet this criterion, you may participate in it and the district will pay for it.
That's how I read it too.
Well, yes, no, I'm in agreement with you there, but that wouldn't suggest that you buy into it, that suggests that's provided to you.
To participate in
No.
doesn't mean buy-in, it means paid for, because it sounds like, because this says benefits paid by district, that only this, if you qualify for both of these, then the district pays.
Well, in any case,
I'll double
it's
check, but
unclear.
I'm now understanding a little more where you guys are reading that. I think that's reasonable reading, but we'll double check with our attorney, or we'll just look at it a little more.
Could you
It'd be
run by it
interesting
again?
to see
What's
even
that?
above.
Could you give me this take that you think is reasonable?
That's the only way.
That allowing them access means that they, similar to a COBRA paying employee, former employee, that board members would have the right to buy in. So they have a right to access the rate and be a part of the risk pool.
Right.
But that'd be at their cost.
Right, as opposed to that we actually would just continue to provide,
That's only for
Free
retired
benefits.
benefit, or retired board members.
Because we actually voted on this to eliminate.
right, as opposed to paying for the
Right.
benefits for the retired.
Right.
Although I will say that is, under, as we know, we do provide post-employment benefits to certificated.
Right, and classified, right. But
And
again, I think that's what became modified by
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, because we voted on that last part when no one else was here except for me.
Right.
That last part was added in,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
But this is interesting because to me, it's sort of saying, you were saying you can't buy this kind of health insurance. Now, as a board member, you can. I mean, that's a benefit. I mean, you could even, do we change this to say current or former board members may buy into the program, right? So if my family has, I'm just making up numbers, my family has health insurance for a family of 5, how much does it cost? Does it cost $25,000 a year? I don't, and here's one that's only $16,000 a year.
So interestingly, Andy, you're the man for this job, right? That question is kind of complicated, maybe with respect to what our insurance company defines as, that might blow up the whole plan because you've
Right.
let somebody who shouldn't be.
Right, yeah, I'll certainly be having to look into this before we come back in June.
So how do we bring this to a head?
I think the way to move it, I think an easy way to move it along is what Jane had suggested to pick.
I understand then I would say as president, you need to make a resolution or whatever and have Andy put it on and then we can discuss and vote on it. You can say whatever you want, A, B, or C, and then we discuss it and we say, no, I'll vote on a resolution that changes that to 50% or that changes it to this, and then we can vote on it.
Another way of doing it is to have an agenda item for each of the options, and if nobody moves the item, it dies. And then we can just move in second.
I like that. I would like to put, so I guess though this would, do we feel like we would need to actually draft the language? Are we comfortable with, Kathy's
We
nodding.
need to amend at some point, we need to
Yeah.
amend our policy.
Right, so-
But I was thinking maybe we could vote on the sort of big picture and then thereafter draft the actual wording as opposed to getting hung up in the wording at this stage of the voting.
And if we felt uncomfortable with that, we could have a vote on the concept and then ratify the exact wording.
Absolutely.
I have to say, I'm really gratified by the comments from you guys, and I'm kind of surprised, frankly. Yeah, I'm kind of taken by surprise, and I think it's a very nice thing to say. It modifies a little bit. I'm not comfortable with status quo, but I would be comfortable with, say, a partial. And again, in the spirit of moving slowly, this 50%, I don't know that 50 is the number, but some skin in the game, I think, is not inappropriate. So.
And I'll just make my pitch for what I think is a purist approach, being that you have an all-volunteer board. And I appreciate what you all said about it, no question. And I appreciate you value our effort, no question. But what I like about an all-volunteer board is it takes away a lot of the question that ironically is sort of embedded in the discussion about benefits, which I think most people intuitively don't like the idea of somebody running for benefits in this position. I do think school boards are different. I think this particular position is one where you are constantly, like I said, having to make, especially in a district like ours with declining enrollment, almost heartbreaking decisions about how to allocate very limited resources. What I like about an all-volunteer board is that it puts the board member in a position of absolute no conflict. There's no question that that board member is like in the back of their head thinking, well, you know, it'd be totally hypocritical for me to take away this or do that because it's like you have nothing. You are here as a steward, and that's it, and you've chosen to do that. So that's my pitch on that. I think there are great arguments, and I think everyone's comments were, I really appreciate those comments, but that's where I'm coming from.
May I make a comment? I had a volunteer one time and I almost got arrested. And it came to the board because the person was actually volunteering their time, but they were selling this product at a greatly inflated price.
Okay, now I do sell the district manila envelopes, but I mean.
But it's a good deal.
It's a good deal. I didn't mean to interrupt you, yeah.
You're all voted in, so you have a constituent that's voted you in. But in my particular situation, I have no idea where the guy came from, but I know he's no longer here to the benefit of the district, but it was pretty scary. And when you volunteer, you have the choice whether you want to participate or not. I mean, you guys are all way beyond that just in the conversations that you have. And I know my membership may not agree with the comments that I have because they're looking at their family piece as opposed to the district piece. And the comments I make is because I've seen this tie together. I call it the glue that holds all this together. Whatever that is, each one of us has made that choice. So whether it's a volunteer or a professional, that's why we're having these honest conversations. Because I know that we've already received those 27 reductions that you guys approved at the last board meeting. And a PTA is going to help pay for custodial services. That blows my mind. Those are services that the district should be paying for if they think that's a priority. But that was the conversation you asked me earlier. If we're paying for benefits, then something else has to go. And that's what we've had the discussion at the table. I get that. But I also get the turnover costs that were mentioned. And I don't want to see you guys turn over. I was here when Mr. Fields left. And boy, was that a public event.
And he was great, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
A good guy, yeah. I was on the board of Food for Thought with him.
Yeah. He talked me into, well, not just him, but he was one of the there were three people at lunch that talked me into the OEF. So if it weren't for him, I wouldn't be here, I'm sure.
So how did we decide to do this?
You'll have several resolutions.
So
Okay.
unfortunately, I will throw in a fourth option just to mention that even though the benefit plan is the same that's offered to current employees, the rate structure actually mirrors the retiree plans. So it's actually a three-tiered rate, and so there is a fourth option of either in some way potentially mirroring one of the offers that we currently are working with OFT on, or doing something focused on the sufficient coverage for the cost of one or two, but not the full family, or there's different ways you could potentially play with the fact that this is a three-tiered rate as opposed to the single rate regardless of election.
So right now, based on your email, because I asked that question, if we could pull out if just the individual board member versus with the spouse versus with the family, and I think it's 11,000 for just the board member, 16 for the board member and spouse, and 21 for a whole family.
That's right.
And you're saying but it's the exact same actual coverage, but just a different rate structure?
Exactly. So just like our retired employees who receive benefits until age 65,
Mm-hmm.
the rate structure for those plans are different than the rate structure for current employees. All current employees who receive benefits Doesn't matter if you have 20 children or
Yeah, we
you
talked
are
about
single.
that, yeah.
It's a single blended rate. But for retirees and for board members, it's a 3-tiered rate. And so, as Shelley just said, the rate for the board member themselves is just over $11,000. The rate for a board member and one dependent would be about $16,500. The rate for a board member and a full family would be $21,000. So we could, if we looked at a 50% employer paid, then it'd be, we'd always have the board member have skin in the game. Versus if you look at a flat dollar amount, whichever that was, if that was the direction you want to go, the dollar amount could be any of those numbers that we just mentioned, or something in between, or there's ways that could be talked about there.
It could be just the board member, and then you pay for anybody else.
Right.
Those would all be options.
Employee-only rate.
Right.
And then, well, that's interesting. Because it does occur to me, and I mean, I know I said this, but I know why I give benefits to employees, but the more we talk, the more I realize that, having benefits is another way of retaining a board member's attention. Keeps them healthy, keeps them here, and that is a valuable thing. Going with the board member only is less of a burden. That actually sounds kind of interesting.
So why don't I work with Andy to put some options on the next agenda, but for purposes of discussing those options, and then we'll put the actual vote once we've vetted options on a subsequent meeting, because it doesn't feel like it feels like we need to decide what the options
So
are.
I think you need to, I don't know how you can decide, same as tonight. Well, it's not a voting item, how can we tell our opinion?
Well, what I mean is you figure out if someone goes, well, that option doesn't, through discussion, we may be able to refine those options. It just feels like too abrupt to just have the options. I don't know. Look, I just drove a vote on 6th grade, so I'm not afraid of driving a vote. I just feel somehow like it needs to have more discussion. That's my feeling. What do you guys feel? You disagree?
I disagree. I think you hear the options, somebody make a motion on one of them after we have a discussion about the options.
Well, I'm happy to do that.
I'm one person.
But let's put it this way. So let's say we do that and we show up and we all are mutually respectful. Someone said, listen, I don't feel comfortable for this reason. I would be okay with deferring that and fixing whatever the perceived problem was.
Yeah, call it cost sharing option, right? It's a concept. I don't know that we've settled on what the share would be, right? So I'm not even clear in my own mind at half or, board member only or what that might be. So yeah, there could be more thought about that option. The other two are pretty clear, right? Status quo or nothing. If we went with
How about this?
sharing-
How about on the next agenda, we have a vote on doing away with board benefits altogether or some form of cost sharing. If the cost sharing is agreed to, then we hammer out what exactly that would be.
More specific, I could work with that.
Mr. Rupp, can I throw in a comment, please?
Sure.
Cost sharing, you guys actually looked at it when the bronze plant came in because of that penalty of not having insurance, and the district revisited that. And so you paid 75% for the 6-hour employee to get benefits, and the employee pays 25%, which is roughly $130 a month. So that's something that you guys did generously then to offset that penalty that was at the time. So as an example, that already exists, and that did happen because of our carrier. Because prior to that, they wouldn't let those 6-hour employees on.
Okay, so that's what we'll do. Moving on.
I thought this was gonna be a short meeting.
I know.
We're thorough, if not anything else.
Sorry, we're having a water issue at my dorm, so I'm trying to.
I think we go to our superintendent's report.
I actually am going to take a cue from what Angie and Chuck and
We were just getting to the juicy stuff
One
anyway.
more thing that you're gonna say, like, yes, I can sit here.
Now I feel actually like I'm more pressure to say something meaningful. What I was going to say instead was that I really don't think there's actually anything to add beyond just summarizing what's taking place at this meeting, because I think it's worthy of note. I mean, first of all, we're having this meeting in the middle of Teacher Appreciation Week, and we heard from Sadie about some of the activities going on across our district, about how much they mean to us. We honored what was the first employee ever identified in Ventura County as a statewide classified employee of the year, which was followed by our classified employee recognition resolution. And we have an incredible union president here who's advocated both for his membership, but also, just as our OFT president has, a bigger picture view of the entire district and the community and a passion for it, and just it's exciting to see. We talked a little bit about moving some big items forward, like some new courses at Matilaha, as well as the potential RFP for this property. And then really, as everyone's already said, I mean, the quality of the conversation and the willingness to engage in these things publicly and really address sensitive and challenging issues. I've said it many times this year when I'm referring to our administrative team, our leadership team, or our staff, but I also am equally proud just to share a seat at this table and witness the way that you guys are willing to engage in these topics. So I have nothing really to add, just to reiterate how special this district is.
So any board member reports? Items for future discussion, I do have that we need to sort of start talking about how we're going to do our board evaluation. So
I
that,
have something from the CSBA that I'll send to Andy.
Okay,
and he
yeah.
can send it to everybody. But it's a format we could use.
great. And
So I think one thing we're also going to...
timing?
Exactly,
Yeah.
yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Timing of the board evaluation. We're in the process of doing a superintendent evaluation, wondering if we should try to combine them. Kind of, there's some symmetry of talking about these issues at the same time, but,
We have to have ours in public.
right.
So we couldn't do it at the same time.
Well, I mean, in the same,
Month.
yes, the same
time.
same meeting, sans the closed session.
I haven't seen that before, I don't think, the board evaluation.
I don't think we've ever done it here since I've been
Okay.
around.
Okay, well, good, then I'm not the only one. I wanted to know what the template and format was, but it'll be
All
a
I've seen is a
surprise.
picture in black and white from the 50s with someone going like this. How dare you!
I just thought it was like the thumbs up, thumbs down.
I mean, I think it would be great, Jane, if you sent that template, and then we could go from there and have a discussion about that at the next meeting, and then go from there.
Actually, I thought that's what elections were.
Yeah, that's true.
No, I'm all for it, though. I think it's good to. I did have one. Were we going to go around, or
Yeah, keep
were
going,
you going to
yeah.
hit your gavel?
No, we've still got the consent calendar, but any
No,
board comments?
So, something that I'd like to advocate for again, that we kind of let drop for a while, is our volunteer committee. And I think it's kind of hard for me to organize all those people. But if we can get committee meetings scheduled for, like Chuck was on it, and the PTA presidents and that sort of thing, whoever wants to participate, I think that would be a great thing to get going again. It was on our parking lot.
And it might.
No, it wasn't on our parking lot, but it should be, I think.
And it might be interesting to kind of tie that in with, communication, getting the word out to our community.
Right.
We're not doing that well.
Yeah.
Right.
There's a
A
little
lot of
board
room.
evaluation for you.
There you go,
Right.
yeah.
A lot of room for improvement. I have a couple of things. I'm hoping that I kind of put it in the parking lot, that we would get regular ongoing updates about the sixth grade move and what that's going. I'm hoping to see that regularly. I would really like to address this dress code for the district. And I asked Kathy to send me the dress codes for, we have a district policy and then every school has their own policy. And I, again, think there's a lot of room for improvement in our dress code. So I'd like to see that. And my third thing is, it has been brought to us in the past, I think a couple of you were in on the same email that I got about the transient rentals. What are they called?
Oh,
Short-term rentals.
Yeah.
And there is an upcoming vote in June, I believe, and June 12th. And do we meet again before then? We do
June
June
5th.
9th, June 5th,
6th.
something in the early
Sixth?
June.
Fifth, it's the 5th.
Do we, as a board, want to make a position in regards to that? Something to be read at that county meeting? Do we want to just go individually?
I'd like to put that on the agenda. I mean, obviously, we can't dictate how each board member might respond, but I think I'd like that on the agenda as a action item that the board would resolve in favor of limits in the Board of Supervisors consideration of special rules for the Ojai Valley. Because I personally think it is significantly hurting our affordable housing.
And therefore our district.
Right.
Yeah, anything that erodes our residential housing stock potentially impacts our student enrollment, and so I would agree. It's my personal opinion anyway, so.
It's my personal opinion too. I spoke at the last supervisors meeting on the subject, so it's a subject I care about.
I think we need to be careful sharing our
Just saying.
opinions at the moment, but put it on the agenda, yeah.
I was just gonna say, I went to the board, I loved the paint that they had used in their remodel.
Oh, one last thing. I'm hoping, Kathy, you can send us again what's going on in the district each month.
Sure.
There's a lot going on, and I know I keep trying to put it together.
Do you all, or any of you subscribe to the district calendar that's on the
Because then we would get
homepage?
it
Then you would get it automatically in your phone, but you definitely will get your list. We just got some new dates yesterday for all the upcoming musicals. So we'll put that together with the,
So I used to, and I've gone on the websites, and of course, like half the schools don't put their own stuff on the calendar, so that doesn't work. And I had seen something
So on the
last year, but every
homepage-
year I have to.
on
For
the
the district?
homepage you don't have to re-sign up for it ever again. You don't have to renew it every year.
Right.
On the very first page, there is a place where you can sign up to get automatic updates on the district calendar. So what I do is every month I have to look at every school's calendar and bring forward the things that we want to publish district-wide.
Okay. But not every school is putting things on their calendars.
Correct, like tonight, Chaparral has their fall, or what do we call
Spring.
the
Spring
spring
open house, spring
flings,
showcase.
and they realized today that they failed to even have it on their own calendar, so.
Is that what I saw going
The
on?
barbecue,
I
yeah.
kept
Yes.
wondering, okay.
Yes. So it is not
Right,
without
so
fail,
it's
but we do our very best to get it
On me
on
to
that.
go subscribe. I'll write myself a note.
Consent
Thank you.
calendar, ready for that?
And with one modification, and you received the email yesterday with that addition, as well as there's a hard copy here for one of the items within the consent calendar.
I'll move to approve.
I have a couple of questions. Can I ask a couple of questions?
Of course.
With it? I was curious if there were 2 Universal Studios trips. We have 2 Universal Studios, and I thought only Honor Society at Matilaha goes.
What pages are those?
8.4.1, 2 out of 3. There's Universal Studios for $2,400, and then the next page, there's another for $6,000.
I'm gonna have to sneak out, sorry. I have
Thank
to
you.
turn off water.
Oh, geez.
Sorry, Jane.
Did our CTE pathway go to Universal Studios at Matilaha?
That's a field trip that doesn't have to be board approved, so
Oh.
I'm really not aware of it.
Oh, did you see what I'm talking about?
No. I see this one.
The 6,000 here, and then
Okay.
it's up here. Sorry.
Good luck, Jane. You're keeping the lake full.
The only one, I guess, who knows how to turn it on.
Good luck.
Location 100. Yeah, they're both Matilah. I can tell by location.
Okay.
So they are both Matilah.
Maybe they ordered them in 2 batches, I don't know. I
Could be.
just, was curious to me. And I was also hoping to hear about the, kindergarten playground materials. I'm assuming that is for Miramani, and they are redoing their kindergarten, and it's through their fundraising mostly, but I was curious if that's all through their fundraising, if, do you see here?
Mm-hmm. Let's see. I'll have to get back to you on that.
Okay,
Sorry, Shelley.
that's all right. Those were my questions.
I noticed the donations thanks to the Lions Club.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Does anyone want to move to approve the consent calendar?
I'll move to approve.
Okay, I'll second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.